Hello again. I am coming to you today from the tiny seaside town of Lahinch. So Lahinch is just south of the Cliffs of Moher, and we are in an apartment that overlooks the beach and the ocean. So I'm hoping it's absolutely stunning in the morning. We got in this evening as it was getting dark, so there was really nothing to see. So I'm really looking forward to what we are going to see, looking out these beautiful big windows tomorrow morning with the beach and the promenade right outside our door. Today we started our morning in Malahide, and today is Mother's Day, or was Mother's Day in Ireland. It's going on 10 p.m. right now. So today was Mother's Day in Ireland. I get to celebrate Mother's Day twice this year, which is super fun. And we began with breakfast at the hotel, and then we hit the road and crossed the entirety of Ireland over to the west coast and County Clare. And we spent, we were 3.5, almost 4 hours today at the Aillwee Burren Experience, and we had so much fun there. We walked around, so they have a birds of prey demonstration that they do, and they have, it's got to be over a dozen birds of prey set up that you can walk around, you can see the cages, you can learn about the birds that they have there. So they have barn owls, which I'm going to tell you, barn owls in Ireland are a beautiful, beautiful bird. They're just stunning. But they have, they have some eagles and some vultures. They obviously have the Harris hawks. They have some red kites. So it's a really interesting display. It has the information about the birds on panels all along the way. So it's really informative. And then we did the birds of prey demonstration. Today they were demonstrating two birds. So they did the barn owl and a falcon. Yeah, falcon. So really interesting, really funny. It's really great to have somebody presenting a demonstration like that where they can share the information in a way that is not only educational but entertaining. So a really, really great time with that. And then we did a hawk walk. So what makes this hawk walk stand apart from all the other hawk walks that I have done is that this takes place in the Burren. So you are in that lunar, rocky environment and flying these birds in a wooded area where you don't have a lot of people tromping through them. So you're like at Ashford Castle, you also walk through some wooded area and the gardens, but there's so many people at Ashford that the possibility of the birds finding some live prey that they maybe want to chase can be a little limited. And what we experienced at Aillwee is that there aren't a lot of people that are walking through these wooded areas. So while the birds did not catch any prey, they did flush out a pigeon. And there was a tiny rodent that got away from them by escaping into some rocks. But it was really interesting to see how the birds reacted. You could see when they had kind of gotten their eye on something, or they had heard something and it took their attention. So a really, really amazing experience. And I actually have a short little interview with Gary, who we did our hawk walk with. And then we did the show cave at Aillwee. And the show cave is actually how the Aillwee Burren Experience started. And some great history in there. It's a really nice cave to walk through, even if you're not a cave person. It's doesn't have that claustrophobic feel that maybe you think that some caves would. Just a really nice informational walk through that cave. And it's pretty flat. There's some steps, but there's nothing, unless you're really, really not sure-footed. It's a nice cave walk for just about anyone. But as I said, I have a nice little chat with our falconer, would you call him, who led us on our hawk walk this afternoon. So I'm going to share that with you, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you do happen to end up in County Clare, in the Burren Cliffs of Moher area, I highly recommend that you take a stop at the Aillwee Burren Experience and see what they have to offer. Even if it is only to do the birds of prey demonstration, it's definitely worth your time. So we are actually on a hawk walk at the Aillwee Burren Experience, and we are hanging out in the woods with Gary, and Sinead and Al are our birds today. But there's a difference, a fundamental difference between a wild Harris hawk and one raised in captivity. And I interrupted you so you could share this, not just with me, but with everybody who listens to the podcast. And I thought this would be really fun. So tell us about this difference.
Well, we were talking about the idea that if I lost one of these Harris hawks, would it survive in the wild, right? And we were saying that they have the same hunting drive, the same capability, right? So they can go and hunt food for themselves, right? On that basis, if they hunt like wild Harris hawks would hunt, what is the difference between them, right? So I would say to you that the big difference between the two is people. These birds, I'll put food on your glove, they will land on your glove to eat the food. If you were walking around Texas with a T-bone steak on the end of your glove with Harris hawks all around, they're not going to come and eat it, right? So, the big difference between a captive bred Harris hawk is us. And what people don't often realize is we train birds to land on a person's glove, but we also train them to get used to all the stuff that comes with us, and that's the thing that people don't often think of. So, if you had a look around, the three of us, we're all dressed very differently, right? You've got your glasses on top of your head, right? Mm-hmm. You've got different clothes on, so we train our birds to get used to this stuff, whether it's glasses, video equipment, tripods, mobile phones, wheelchairs, crutches, walking stick. We could talk about a baby in a buggy, mm-hmm. kids running around the place screaming, adults running around the place screaming, and displays, right? Umbrellas scared the living daylights out of me to this day. Same thing with them, right? Coffee mugs, soda bottles, mm-hmm. kids' toys, mm-hmm. the whole thing. And that's what we do. We have an old broken wheelchair in our collection to get our birds used to it. So we train them to get used to all the stuff that comes with us, and that's right down to handbags, hoods, funny looking hats, mm-hmm. nice looking hats, scarves, and so on. So that's what we do with all these birds. Mm-hmm. Wild Harris hawk is going to come nowhere near you. Doesn't matter what you have to offer. Mm-hmm. And that's the big difference.
And so it's just getting them used to the people and the things with the people around them that makes it, makes it so that they will interact, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose what we take for granted sometimes is you could look at a Harris hawk. I'll put a piece of chicken right up in your glove right now. Mm-hmm. And one of these guys will fly down, come to your glove, and we go, oh, that's cool. These guys will fly down, grab a bit of chicken. There we go. And we go, oh, it's cool. They'll come and fly to the glove. We take for granted all the stuff that we carry with us. You've got a phone in your hand.
Al's like looking at the phone. He's like, what is it? Can I eat it? Are you going to give it to me?
Well, it's pink, obviously.
You need to be a greedier eater, Al, so we can hear you. Just chomping that up.
I think I was greedy enough at the best of times.
That was a big piece. So it's getting them used to, because it's not a performance. It's not like they're trained to do certain things. They're not trained to do tricks. They're not even necessarily trained to go, like glove to glove or whatever, but they've become used to, they know that when there's a glove out and you're putting food on it and the hand is out in a certain way, there's probably going to be something for them.
Well, they know that we're okay.
Okay.
Wild bird doesn't.
Right.
And that's the big one, right? Which links into the whole aspect of, like, I could work with dogs or cats and know that dogs and cats will love me back, but these guys don't. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a relationship between us. Birds of prey, well, they don't love me, right? So if I leave work in here tomorrow and one of my colleagues in 2 months, 3 months, go, "Do you miss Gary?" If they could talk back, they're going, "No, who's that? Give me the chicken, you fool," right? And
Right.
that's the way they look at it. But the relationship is based on trust. So I do have a relationship with these guys. They know that I'm okay, that I will feed them, I'll look after them, and that's what our relationship is, which is a pretty cool one. It's about the nicest way you could have a relationship with a killer, really, isn't it? When you think about it.
Behind you.
And 2! Oh,
I was thinking about robbing me, I think.
he was. So the Hawk Walk is just one of the experiences here at the Aillwee Burren Experience. We did a very fun Birds of Prey presentation with you, and I think the funnest part of that for me was that it was informative, but it was also, I don't know, funny. And just, it was, I don't know how I would describe it other than it was entertaining, right? So it just wasn't the bird. You just weren't talking about the bird, but there was a lot of entertainment into it. And you had an audience of all ages. There were little ones, teenagers, and then adults, obviously. So what is it that you think draws people to this experience?
Well, the bird of prey thing is quite unique. We've got 24 birds in our collection, and I think a lot of people don't get the opportunity to see a lot of these birds. On the other side of it, there's a lot of cool stuff going on in this country with conservation, reintroduction programs, and so on. So even when we get people in, they're always drawn in by these animals, the beauty of them, and so on. And of course, I suppose the aspect of a flying display is, because we cater to all ages, I think of things in the way that I would like to get information. And if you start talking about facts, you need to get the balance right. So if we can get a balance of talking about these guys in such a fun way, we can also talk about the serious stuff. And when we get the balance right, we can actually hit a lot of ears and make it more memorable. Because I suppose from the display point of view, I would have said this in the display, we are a tourist attraction, we're a bird of prey centre, but we're also, the driving pulse behind that centre is education, conservation, and literally getting information out there that people aren't aware of. If we can do that in an entertaining way, I always find that it tends to get listened to a little bit more. If you have a good time, you will retain more of what you're talking about. And if we can change the way people talk about rodenticide, for example, and how barn owls are affected by it and other birds of prey, if somebody changes their routine, how they deal with pests, that's a huge win. Right. And that's just a case of information is key. If you can deliver it in such a way that people are captivated by it and listen to it, I think that's an amazing thing to do. It's one of the reasons I love working here.
Excellent. And then, is Aillwee open year-round, or are there any months that that maybe you aren't running the birds of prey? Anything anybody should know before planning to add it to an itinerary?
Well, I suppose one of the key points is to check out our website. We always have that information there, which will give you information on times that we fly birds, because we do it at set times. It'll give you information about the cave tours, what's accessible here and how it runs. Even last year over the winter, we were open for Santa Claus, and we had a lot of fun with that, and there's usually something exciting going on in different ways. Of course, if you're working with birds, every day is different. No two are the same, but yeah, we're pretty much open all year round.
Excellent. And hawk walks, if you are interested in doing it, this is one of the more natural outdoor hawk walks, I guess, that we've had the experience of doing. A lot of them are more controlled areas. So we're halfway up a mountain in the Burren, and surrounded by trees and brush and things like that. So it's not as controlled of an environment, I think, which makes it one of the more unique hawk walks in Ireland. And if it is something that you want to add to your itinerary, you definitely have to book it in advance.
That's for sure. We usually take bookings about 24 hours in advance. That would be the limit on it. So 48, 24 hours in advance. It allows us to get our Harris hawks in a row. And we do a private hawk walk experience where we will generally cover a lot of bird of prey stuff. We'll talk about some of the Irish landscape and anything that flies into my brain at the given time, I suppose, is the way that goes.
Excellent. Thank you, Gary, so much for this experience and for chatting with me. It's always fun.
My pleasure. You're welcome.